This week on Africa Weekly, we travel to Zimbabwe, where tourism is booming after years of political and economic instability under Mugabe had kept tourists at bay. And we take you to Nairobi, where plans are underway to transform one of the city's oldest libraries to its former glory. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Leaders of the BRICS emerging economies of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa met in Johannesburg, with the threat of a worsening global trade war topping the agenda. China's President Xi Jinping said on Wednesday that there would be no winner in any global trade war, in a direct warning to US President Donald Trump, who has threatened to slap levies on all Chinese imports.
A trade war should be rejected because there will be no winner. Economic hegemony is even more objectionable because it will undermine the collective interest of the international community. Those who pursue this cause will only hurt themselves.
During a whistle-stop tour of the continent to cement relations with African allies, Jinping also visited Senegal and Rwanda. Signalling diplomatic rivalry over influence in Africa, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Rwanda and Uganda on his own 5-day tour of the continent. At a press conference in Harare on Wednesday, Zimbabwean opponent and leader of the Movement for Democratic Change, Nelson Chamisa, claimed that victory in the country's forthcoming presidential election was inevitable, provided the vote was free and fair.
We will not accept any fake result or any fiction. We will only accept genuine elections. And if there's going to be a genuine election, there's nothing to accept which is contrary to our victory, because victory is inevitable. The people have spoken.
According to a recent poll, President Emerson Mnangagwa has only a small lead over the opposition leader, ahead of the historic July 30th poll. But his opponent Chamisa also expressed concern that the election was threatened by fraud and accused electoral authorities of bias. During a campaign rally in the central Malian city of Mopti on Thursday, opposition leader Soumaïla Cissé promised to bring peace to the region plagued by intercommunal violence. Mali holds crucial polls on Sunday, with President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta seeking re-election in a country reeling from jihadist violence and ethnic attacks. Keïta, elected in 2013, is accused by his opponents of poor governance and security failures. 24 candidates are in the race for the presidency, and over 8 million people are eligible to vote. The health minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo officially declared the end of an outbreak of Ebola on Tuesday, after a 10-week re-emergence of the disease claimed 33 lives. The outbreak, the 9th in the Democratic Republic of Congo since 1976, began in the remote northwestern area of Bikoro, where the first cases were recorded on May 8th and triggered a wave of international concern. Comorian President Azali Assoumani addressed his constituents at a rally on Tuesday in support of voting yes in a forthcoming referendum. Assoumani, who was elected in 2016, has called a referendum for July 30th on a constitutional reform that could allow him to seek re-election and retain power beyond 2021, when his currently non-renewable term would otherwise end.
This is Zimbabwe, and after almost 20 years in the doldrums, its tourism industry is being revived. Foreign visitors to the country's flagship tourist resort, the Victoria Falls, jumped nearly 50% in the first quarter of 2018.
We chose Zimbabwe because of Victoria Falls. I gotta tell you, we've never been to Africa and we're falling in love with Africa. So, yeah, we've seen a lot of animals and the people are so kind and friendly and welcoming. Yeah, we were not afraid at all to come here.
Political and economic instability scared tourists away for years. But after a de facto military coup at the end of 2017, longtime President Robert Mugabe was removed and an industry responsible for 10% of Zimbabwe's GDP reopened almost overnight.
I think we were in a closed period. For a long time, we closed ourselves in. The doors were locked. It is a key pillar to our economy and a low-hanging fruit. We just have to get our act together.
Even though it's too early to say exactly what the national increase for 2018 will be, the minister believes tourism could become the #1 contributor to Zimbabwe's economy, something local businesses are getting excited about.
The bottom line is we want to see more tourists, we want more people to come to Zimbabwe. Hopefully we'll have more investors coming in to build more hotels, bigger hotels and other facilities.
And this seems to be exactly what is happening. New hotels and a new airport have recently been built close to Victoria Falls, and accommodation in the area is often fully booked. This man explains why.
It is impressive. I think it's one of the most impressive things I've seen in my life. And believe me, I have seen many things in my life already.
Whether regional or from further abroad, tourists are coming back, and Zimbabwe appears to truly be open for business.
The stone lions and ornate columns of the Macmillan Library contrast starkly with the bland surrounding sprawl of downtown Nairobi. The building is one of the few from the British colonial era still standing in the city. And though its grand facade suggests past importance, the library now receives fewer than 70 visitors a day. But writer Wanjiru Konanje and publisher Angela Wachuka have an ambitious plan to transform the library for the future.
The long-term goal is to have the building completely look like what a library in 2018 in Nairobi needs to look like. So digital collections, art pieces by local artists, books by local writers, events, readings, coffee shops.
The library was opened in 1931 to honour American explorer William Macmillan, who came to the country at the beginning of the 20th century. And though it subsequently fell into disrepair, the site contains a treasure trove of archive material.
Here are photographs of President Roosevelt visiting a mission in 1909.
After a long struggle, Wanjiru and Angela got the green light for their project from the Kenyan government. Their goal now is to bring literature to the masses.
In my background as a publisher, one of the things that you're concerned about is where does the work that you produce go to live and go to be experienced? Where is it archived? Where is it accessed by the public?
The pair are also restoring 2 other libraries in the city. They found that most visitors are seeking refuge from the capital's bustling streets and the use of a dependable internet connection.
I must admit, they don't have recent books, and it might be hard to get the exact books that you need with current information.
The 2 women have a shared enthusiasm to update the current collections, which largely date back to the colonial era, with works by African authors. A fundraising campaign to raise $1 million to make their dreams a reality will begin in September.
From its humble beginnings in 2008, Somaliland's Hargeisa Book Fair has become an international event, attracting delegations from all over the world. When it first launched 10 years ago, organisers only exhibited a handful of books borrowed from friends, and the event attracted just 200 visitors. The book fair also goes a long way in helping to raise awareness of the self-proclaimed country's relative stability in contrast to Somalia. A delegation from the African Football Confederation began its first site inspection visit of the sports, medical and hotel infrastructures of Ivory Coast, the organizer of CAN 2021. The delegation visited the construction site of the new stadium in the Ivorian capital, located in Ebimpe, 18 kilometers from the city. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.